Back to one of our top stories. ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa says the party has nothing to hide on its candidate lists. The lists were leaked, of course, on social media on Friday. This has prompted the ANC Secretary-general Fikile Mbalula to write to the IEC requesting some kind of investigation around the circumstances that led to that leak. Let's continue with reaction. Get you word now from COSATU. The acting national spokesperson and parliamentary coordinator is Matthew Parks, who joins us now via our video link. Matthew, always great to chat to you. Thanks very much indeed for making time. COSATU's voice is important because, of course, you're in co-governance with the ANC, so to speak, as part of the tripartite alliance. I have to start by just getting a sense from you what you make of the leaking itself and the IEC's explanation around what happened.
Yeah, no, look, it's unfortunate, and we do appreciate the IEC immediately responded. It wasn't just the ANC's list which was leaked, two of the ANC lists, but I think also one of the MK or the EFF party's list as well. I forget which one. So look, I think it's fine. The IEC has apologized for it. Thanks. It's promised to take action on it, and that's the appropriate response. It's unfortunate when human beings, see sensitive issues, they misbehave, they want to leak, especially in this era of social media, where everybody wants to share everything all the time. So that's unfortunate, but the IEC has promised to take action, which we welcome. We do think the IEC needs to revise what it does share when it does do so at the right time with the public. Because the IEC, when it releases these candidates list officially, not just the leak processes, it includes people's ID numbers. So, for example, you have the President of the Republic's ID numbers floating around on Twitter. That's one, is not acceptable. Two, it's against the Protection of Personal Information Act. So that's a criminal offense. So the IEC, besides dealing with the issue of the leak, it also does need to deal with this issue that, yes, share people's names when it's appropriate. That's fine. But let's just respect people's privacy, everybody's privacy, irrespective of who they are. And let's not share people's ID numbers. When we have seen so many times when these scammers on the internet want to steal people's bank account details and so forth, we should really be protecting people's right to privacy.
Right. And, we had the information regulator speak to us in the previous hour, and they have also had interactions with the IEC. As you can imagine, they have the whole host of questions and are waiting for that investigation to finally have some kind of conclusion around what happened. However, we live in a country where we can walk and chew at the same time. There's conversations around the leak and the fact that it shouldn't have happened. But of course, naturally, the conversation is also going to morph around the list itself. People who are on that list, who the public perhaps think shouldn't have been on for a whole host of reasons, including their names coming up at the Electoral Commission, amongst many other controversies. Are you satisfied with this compromise, we're told, that the ANC has arrived with in releasing this list with all its contents, if you know what I mean?
Yeah. Look, it's a give and take. I think that you made the correct point. It's a compromise. If we had drafted the list as COSATU, sure, we would not have included some persons who had been flagged in integrity, in the Electoral Commission, who even the ANC's own internal structures, the Integrity Committee, the Veterans League, and I think even ourselves as COSATU, many other organizations within the alliance have raised concerns about it. We accept in the most instances that most of the persons who have been flagged are not on the list. It's a few individuals, so I think we also must put some perspective in place. It's not ideal. We would have loved not to have seen a single one person. But I think also, to be fair to the ANC, it's a difficult juggling act. I think one difficult thing is that those people have not been charged. Some of them were first approached or charged, whatever it was, 5 years ago, and yet they've yet to see their day in court. They've yet to see the prosecution taking place. So it's a bit of a messy situation, to be honest. But I think for us, in most instances, the list is a credible list. It does have strong candidates. We would have loved not to have seen everybody on the list. But yes, that some of them are there. But I think by and large, what we're looking for is COSATU is a strong team, a team that the President Cyril Ramaphosa could appoint to cabinet and deliver, rebuild the state, grow the economy. But also you want to have strong people who can be in parliament, who can hold the executive to account, who can hold the parastatals to account. So we think by and large, most instances, yes, indeed, the ANC has managed to achieve that, and hence we're able to have confidence in it. And of course, ultimately, yes, we might look at individual names and personalities and capacity. But I think most importantly is that we're guided by the ANC manifesto. And that for us is a critical thing. It's a progressive manifesto. We think if implemented, it can turn things around. And of course, that's also why the list becomes important, because you do need to have people who have got the capacity, the integrity and the leadership and the will to implement the manifesto.
Absolutely. And it's one thing to mention these things in the manifesto. It's another to deal with the optics around how you reckon that's going to be implemented. Names, for example, like Zweli Mkhize being on there has raised eyebrows, especially because Zweli Mkhize voluntarily stepped aside in order to allow investigations into the digital vibe saga to continue. It's a bit, for lack of a better term, odd for the constituency of the ANC, I imagine, to see his name back there again in a context where there hasn't been any kind of conclusion around that controversy.
Yeah, no, look, to be honest with you, it's unfortunate. It's messy. It's not a helpful optics. It's distracting. It's a difficult one. Again, if we had drafted it, we would have definitely not included certain persons without going into names. But on the balance of the scale, you have a list of 400 candidates for the National Assembly. You've got a list of a similar number of persons, I think 490 for the provincial legislatures. And more than 95% of those persons have not been implicated. More than 95% of those persons are people with integrity, capacity, a track record. So I think for us, we want to focus on those ones. Yes, there's about 5 or so persons we're not happy with or thrilled with. And I think we do appreciate the ANC has made a commitment by the president that they have the space to review the list as appropriate when the time comes. If person A does go to court, then yes, they would want to review that person's role on the list and perhaps recall them. So we want to take that. But I think ultimately the real solution, to be honest with you, is the National Prosecuting Authority has got to be assisted. We can't have people being charged, headlines, and then half a decade later have yet to be brought to court. We've got to see justice being done. So that means in the budget we must allocate additional resources to the National Prosecuting Authority to fill prosecuting vacancies, to make sure the courts have got sufficient resources to expedite cases through, especially high-profile cases. Then that's what we should be doing, because ultimately that's the real solution.
Yeah.
Chasing names, well, we'll be doing it for time and again. And it's not going to get there. We have to rebuild the prosecuting, the police, the courts at the end of the day.
Yeah, I'm yet to meet anyone who doesn't believe that in this election, the stakes perhaps have never been higher. And it's in that context that there are perceptions that the ANC has chosen unity over its prospects, given what's at stake. I wonder to what extent you agree with that.
Look, I'll be shocked if there's any political party in the world which doesn't try to manage their own internal unity. That's how parties, manage issues. They're not like a small family unit. ANC's got more than 1 million members, so they have to do that. At times there are contradictions. At times there are unhealthy contradictions. But I think on a broader scale of things, when you weigh the balances, the ANC has done well. It has removed a sitting Secretary-General of the ANC who was implicated, Magashule. It has parted ways with the compromised former president, Jacob Zuma. You've seen the president of the ANC in the country, Cyril Ramaphosa, has removed quite a few compromised persons from government, from the state, from cabinet, from provincial government, from the ANC itself. So yes, there's a few, unfortunately, who have survived. But if you look at the sheer volume of people he's removed, it's been significant. I'd be amazed if another political party would have removed a sitting Secretary-General, a former president. And the ANC has done that, and I think we must cheer it on when it does well. Yes, I think all of us are correct to be frustrated at times that it takes too long. We do appreciate that these are sometimes messy, cumbersome democratic organizations, but we must recognize the ANC is moving in the right direction to remove these compromised persons.
Sure. Magashule and Jacob Zuma arguably may be out, but the question is at what cost? But your point is still well made. Matthew Parks, thanks for speaking to us. Appreciate your time on the SABC News Channel. Matthew Parks, of course, the COSATU Parliamentary Coordinator, also speaking to us there in his capacity as the acting spokesperson of COSATU. There's going to be a whole lot more reaction, by the way, to the leaking of the ANC's list and Mkhonto season, some EFF lists, by the way. But we'll see how it's all being distilled when the ANC give their media briefing around this in the next hour.